Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Film Study. This is Ken McCusick, and it's time to go through camp notes for August 1st, 2026, the Ravens' fourth day of training camp. And they were down at the University of Maryland's SECU Stadium. A different kind of an atmosphere than we typically have at camp. A sparse camp, audience or a fan base was replaced with a very loud, basically a half full lower deck at the Maryland facility, and very much a college atmosphere. Still in shells only, but Jesse Minter said that the first padded practice will come Monday after the day off on Sunday. Very exciting news. Probably for fans, definitely for reporters in terms of what's going on there. We want to see how those players look in pads. Today was a vet day off for a number of players, all of whom showed up in civvies. Those included Derrick Henry, Ethan Posick, Ronnie Stanley, Trey Hendrickson, Nnamdi Madubuike, and Calais Campbell, who was there today, but again, in civilian clothes. Corey Bullock remains on NFI. I did not see him there. Otherwise, everybody else was present. Other than the three PUP players that are still Jones, Jenkins, and Buchanan, whereas we're not there. So I think we're starting to see a pattern emerge that we will see, because a lot of camp is sectioned off in these 4-day bursts of practices. And at the podium, Jesse Minter made a comment that it's not typical that you practice for 4 consecutive days, and that was part of the calculus that went into assigning some vet days off this day. And I think it may be even more than that, with an off day coming the following day and then a padded practice on the first day. I'm actually expecting this is a fairly regular pattern, that each 4-day burst will end. Now, he said a whole lot of factors, much more going on kind of thing, but that's okay. I believe that he'll be doing this a certain way, and I think we'll see these 4-day bursts of practice. All right, what else to say? Special teams worked on kickoff coverage. Not too much to say about this. Like the punt coverage, they're working up to a full 10-man rep, and they're not going a 10-on-10 rep. They're just working up to an individual 10-man rush here. They did a 2-man individual stand-up blocking. Those are just 2 individual one-on-one blocks, and you know how it kind of almost is like you're 2-gapping the man opposite you as you run 10 yards towards him under the new kickoff rules. So that's kind of what they're looking at. Then they had a 10-man rush to see if they could maintain their lanes, just running, basically directly to a ball carrier who received it from a jugs gun. They said not even kicking, but with a live leg there, just the basic building blocks of kickoff coverage. At some point, and probably this will happen first during the joint practices, they'll work up to reps where they really want to go 11 on 11 or 10 on 10, really, or 10 on 11. I guess really it would be during those joint practices. I think that before then, they may not have quite enough players that they want to put on special teams both ways to do those kind of reps. We'll see. They'll probably do something right before those joint practices, just so they've had a little bit of practice at it. Lamar Jackson, kind of a tough day today. He tried to squeeze a ball into Mark Andrews that was nearly intercepted by Malachi Starks. Then he threw a 15-yard pass to the right sideline for Zay Flowers. That was picked off by Keon Martin. He had a couple nice passes, one to Mark Andrews and another to Zay Flowers that went for some significant yardage. But he was intercepted again today, and obviously that's not good. This was a one of the interceptions that's worse because it didn't come on fourth down. And so his first interception had come the day before, and it was on fourth down on a got to throw it up or you lose the game kind of situation. So anyway, that was a good one. Anyway, big nice crossing pass to Andrews was probably his best pass. And 7-on-7, he had a completion to Zay Flowers, who cut inside and beat Keon Martin for 5 yards plus significant yak. So that was a nice little play. And again, no one can cover Zay Flowers when he sticks his foot in the ground. There's no hip sinkage. There's nothing to see it's coming. You just got to try and be ready for all the possible avenues you can do. And he doesn't even really have to be a great route runner. Like I've said before, I think he's so physically gifted in terms of being able to stick his foot in the ground and turn. We saw Tyler Huntley complete a 15-yard pass to Josh Cuevas, which beat Keandre Jackson. That is significant. Okay, that is they've been a high volume of targets to both Hibner and Cuevas, but that was the longest pass of the 4 days of camp so far that went to either one of those two guys, and obviously the longest catch as well. So nice play there by Cuevas, nice throw by Huntley, and it's good to see those guys try and get between level 2 and level 3 instead of just being these check down targets in the middle of the field or, running these flat routes that they've been having a lot of trouble, frankly, holding onto the ball, and some crossing routes that have been really shallow crosses, a couple by Cuevas where the ball was actually behind him. It hasn't been a good camp so far for those rookie receivers. I know it's being reported a little bit differently on other outlets, but that's the way I see it. High volume of targets, but they need to get those guys going in terms of getting them between level 2 and level 3, getting them more into the play action component of this offense where they can really shine. Huntley led Jacoby Lane a little too far, 10 yards, four circle. You see that in my notes every week on the defense, but four circle means it's between the right hash and the right numbers in that 1/5 segment of the field as I designate, the ball was incomplete. Too far ahead even for Jacoby Lane's catch radius to haul it in. Thompson had a 5-yard pass to Chris Moore that went right through his hands. Unfortunate, and we've seen good hands from Chris Moore otherwise in camp so far. Thompson then threw a 5-yard pass for Octavian Smith. That was knocked down by Chandler Rivers. Nice play by Rivers, and good play from the slot there. Go to 11-on-11 highlights. A whole lot of highlights to take you through here, and that's despite the fact that we were kind of pulled down early from where we were watching the practice from the press box at Maryland. By the way, you're a mile high there. You're on the 5th floor. You really feel like you're watching, a game from the top of the upper deck, maybe at M&T kind of thing. And you're just an extremely long way from the field. And I felt like I should have had binoculars there, basically, to read the numbers for a lot of the players. It's definitely a high vantage point, more like a hockey press box. I guess I would say that those tend to be way up in the rafters of the building as well. Okay, 11-on-11. The defense was flagged for holding on a run play on the very first snap. Now, it's very unusual to have a defensive holding call on a run play. It's not typically, it doesn't involve a receiver. It usually means that one of the interior defensive linemen, and I think in this case it might have been Okoye, tries to grab hold of two different offensive linemen to basically get a double team guaranteed so nobody can move up. It often starts with a double team. That player will get hold of two players, and then one will try and move up to, the typical way they would to cut off a combination block, and he'll continue to hold on. The guy who was notorious for that in the AFC North was Casey Hampton years ago. Would pile up a lot of these flags, and that means he's getting away with a lot more of those flags. So anyway, it was something that obviously the Ravens don't want to see. Randall outraced Simpson to the edge on left side. It's a 9-on-9 run drill, so he would have had Simpson would have had additional help on that side from a corner who would have been able to, hopefully close that down. But nice play by Randall. Randall had a good day running the football. Then we saw Jay Higgins shut down Randall for a run left on 1 or 2 yards. Higgins, another guy who had a pretty good day. We're not done mentioning his name. Emory Jones pulled left to open a big hole for Randall on a left C-gap run. Offensive holding was called on the play. I think it was probably on Carson Vinson, who was the next player over there, because I didn't see it in terms of the block that Emory Jones threw. Emory Jones, had some concerns about mobility. Him being kind of a little bit of a slower-footed guard tackle, but he pulled very effectively. I thought in this place, the block was very square, and I didn't see any sense of holding. Usually, it's a guy who's parallel to the line of scrimmage, and somebody's trying to move laterally across the line of scrimmage. We actually had Jones on that play was perpendicular to the line of scrimmage. So I think it's probably Carson Vincent, but I don't know for sure. So then saw Zion Young shut down a run on the left edge. He had a fine day as well. Elijah Tautoliver made a nice cutback to find space on the left side. Diego Pounds had a false start. Tautoliver again burst free, untouched into level 2. I'm having to go shotgun through these because I've got quite a bit here. Jackson completed a 15-yard throw to Mark Andrews, probably his pass of the day. He beat Keon Martin crossing. It was 15 plus yak. The play, I thought I heard it blown dead, but Andrews continued the entire distance, and the fans, of course, went wild, thinking, it's a touchdown kind of thing, as they always do. In camp, it's normal, if you haven't been there ever, that running backs run their runs out oftentimes for a touchdown, even though the plays have been blown dead or they've been touched otherwise. And Andrews, in this case, did have a significant yak play there in any case. And then the very next play, though, Jackson threw a pick on a pass intended for Zay Flowers on the right side. He's about 15 yards down the right sideline. And Keon Martin came from underneath, got in the lane, and made a play on the football. He has played some great football over the last couple of days. And I think the Ravens are going to have a very, very difficult time cutting him. If I were to look at the current totem pole at slot corner, I think he's ahead of Chandler Rivers. Chandler Rivers is a draft pick. He's got 4 years of team control. And, by the new terminology we're using, there's only 2.5 years of team control remaining on Keon Martin because of the RFA year. He'll have in year 4. But he is still a very exciting player and a guy who's made a real mark this preseason. In fact, I think there's a pretty good chance he would be gone soon with attrition around the league if the Ravens tried to put him on the practice squad. All right. Then Jackson completed a pass to Rashad Bateman. He kind of leaped forward to catch the ball 10 yards between the hashes. Kayvon Wallace was coming up on the play. This is a case where Bateman is doing a lot of things right this camp. He's really showing off a big catch radius and whatnot. Kind of unfairly judged for not being able to haul in a long pass yesterday. It was really badly underthrown by Jackson. I think Bateman has looked terrific this camp so far, and it looks much more like the 24 version. Looks highly motivated on the field to have a big year. All right, Jackson completed a 15-yard pass to Zay Flowers coming back between the right hash and numbers. And that was after Josh Cuevas unfortunately whiffed on his block on the offensive left side to allow pressure. So a nice throw. It's not real pressure, of course, when you can't touch the quarterback, and Jackson doesn't have to be worried about it the same way he would be during the regular season, where he might have had to move and make that throw. But nonetheless, a nice pass and just an unfortunate missed block there by Josh. We saw Adam Randall follow his blocks well through a nice hole into level 2 where Hamilton contained him. Tavius Robinson, one of the most violent plays of the day, knocked Matt Hibner on his ass, rushing off the right edge as Huntley completed a 5-yard throw between the numbers of the left hash. And I think we've seen a lot of Randall's receiving skills as well as his running skills in this camp. So that's been a positive. But Tavius Robinson looks big and violent. And we are seeing that from both of the Ravens' early down edges. When I talk about Zion Young and Tavius Robinson, I think those are guys who are going to be playing together on a lot of early downs. I think they can give pass rush, and I think they can definitely be significant factors against the run. So we'll see if that's the way they play it, or if they try and get one pass rusher on the field on a fair percentage of first downs by having either Hendrickson or Mike Green out there. I tend to think if the pass rush is good enough with those two, they'd really like Tavius and Zion to own first down so that they can then be used in some complementary ways in the pass rush game, whether that means kicking inside or in some sort of race car package or rush nickel that the Ravens might put out there. All right. We then saw, let's see, a very well executed screen pass to Rasheen Ali. That came from Tyler Huntley. Looked like about 0+15. One player who I've been mispronouncing his name, excuse me.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
Is Evan Berenson. And I've been struggling with the pronunciation of that name, but he was late getting out for his block on that screen pass. And that probably cost a little bit of yak on that play. Huntley completed the short throws, two of them to Mike Petza, both under 5 yards. We saw Aeneas Peebles have a spin move for a pressure, and he held up. Huntley was still allowed to complete the pass for 5 yards to Rasheen Ali, but that play probably should have been blown dead for a sack. Peebles had a big day. Adam Randall again found some space on a run over right guard. Jay Higgins made a couple of consecutive good plays. The first, he shut down Randall in the A gap for a short run, and then he halted Tolliver in the B gap for no yards. Unfortunately, the defense was flagged for offsides to negate that. It wasn't Higgins himself, but the play may have benefited from the defensive standpoint by the fact that they were offsides. We saw Keon Martin used as a pass rusher. He compressed the pocket on the left side, and there was an offensive holding flag thrown. I believe it was on the other side. If it was on the same side, that's an incredibly impressive play for a defensive back to force an offensive lineman into a holding call, which is what that would have been. But anyway, Martin did a good job of containing the pocket on that left side and creating a situation where the ball had to be thrown away and where the holding penalty became a reality as well. All right. And on the very next play, we had Zion Young racing past the right tackle, Jared Lichtenhan. The play was blown dead for a sack, so Zion Young, another big play. Huntley then threw a check down on 3rd and 22 to Elijah Tolliver, 5 yards by nearer the left sideline, and that was shut down by Robert Longerbeam to end the drive. With Thompson at quarterback then getting the next chance, the defense was flagged for an illegal hands to the face. It appeared to me that was probably Zion Young on Diego Pounds. It might have been somebody else, but he was the one who appeared affected by the play. And I definitely did not see the IHF directly, but if I had to guess, that's where it was. Then Berenson was flagged for holding versus Aeneas Peebles on a play where Peebles penetrated anyway to tackle Adam Randall for a loss. So Peebles making plays, and Berenson, if you're going to hold. Let's don't let the player make the play. Thompson completed a pass to Randall for 5 plus about 15 yak. That appeared to be a blown coverage on the right side. Short pass, obviously wide open, and 15 yards of open green in front of him. He took advantage of. We saw then David Olajiga. Now, he's a player I've mentioned a couple of times, but he's played very well so far in these 4 days. He knocked down the center, Nick Dawkins, for a very fast sack. He's in there quickly, and Dawkins was on the ground. It looked, I could not tell if this was a pancake block where the defensive tackle somehow gets his foot on the feet of the center, because sometimes that happens, or whether the center became entangled with one of the 2 guards. But I do know that Dawkins was on the ground on the play, and Olajiga was straight in the face of Thompson on the play, and the play was blown dead. We then had Berenson flagged for a false start. It's a tough day for him. I don't think he's off of any roster consideration or anything, but the re-signing of Andrew Voorhees, the renumbering of Andrew Voorhees, he was already signed for $3.7 million, but he's taken less than that. Definitely reduces his chance to make the team. So we'll see if he sticks on the top of the practice squad as a guy they're ready to bring up at some point. Zion Young then again had an initial pressure on a short pass from Thompson to Moore that resulted in the end of the drive. So another big one there for Zion. They moved us down at that point to the field. Now, I will say this: I absolutely love the Ravens interns and staff that they have to manage practice. They're terrific people. They Marisol Renner, and they have I hope I don't forget a name: Madison and Spencer. And I'm going to forget it. Jess and Sierra. They're outstanding. They're great people. They're extremely helpful. I do feel like we got moved down as a herd a little prematurely this time, and they want to make sure we get us down to the podium area. And I think it had to do with the fact that the Ravens left very quickly after practice. It did not appear like the Ravens showered on site. I mean, there's locker rooms there, of course, but I don't think they used them. So they probably went in uniform from the facility in Baltimore, if I had to guess. Or maybe they dressed on site. But it looks like the buses left so quickly after the fact that I can't believe the players had time to shower, even with a little bit of podium time for about 3 players. And Lamar Jackson and Malachi Stark certainly were still in their jerseys when they were at the podium, so they didn't have a chance to shower at the very least. And I think that the urgency to get home meant we missed a little bit of the end of practice, and that's unfortunate, but it's just the way it sometimes happens. Some stars on offense. Adam Randall was impressive as a runner and a receiver. I talked about him enough. Elijah Tautoliver, I think, had some nice runs today, and I point to Mark Andrews as making the one big play on the catch and run. Need to see more of Mark. I mean, he still is a focal point for Lamar Jackson, and Lamar really wants to get him the football as he tried to force the 5-yard throw in that got almost picked off by Malachi Starks early in practice. You really want to. He wants to see the ball go to his old connection. Stars on defense, got a bunch of them, of course. Higgins, I thought, had really good downhill play versus the run. Good at shedding blocks, good at getting to the hole, making tackles. Sometimes he was just past the hole, sometimes he was in the hole. Both good and a very sure tackler there. Aeneas Peebles in the backfield, run and pass, big day. He's improved his chance to make this team significantly over these 4 days. I think he's played quite well. Zion Young is absolutely ferocious, and Minter has more than once mentioned that Zion has to be dialed back at times when they're not in pads. So it's going to be fun to see him on Monday when they are in pads to see what he's able to do. You still got to take care of your teammates, by the way, when you're in pads, but I think he's potentially going to be that much better. And then Keon Martin with the interception has to be in this group. And again, he not only had an interception, he rushed the passer once effectively. We saw Tyler Luke make all 3 field goal attempts at the end of practice. And reportedly the last one, a 43-yarder, was for 50 push-ups on the line for the entire team. So that's a good one to make. You don't want to have everybody mad at you about 50 push-ups. And we saw earlier in OTAs where the final day of minicamp ended early with no meetings after it. Now, they weren't going to have meetings after it anyway, but the final day of minicamp ended with Tyler Luke making a field goal from 40 yards that allowed practice to end about 20 or 30 minutes early, and then the players to go without meetings that afternoon. So anyway, he's made both of his a lot on the line kicks with regard to his teammates. Jesse Minter was at the podium. He talked about that wager with the team and Loop. He described the defensive dominance as a foundation so far. Defense really dominated through 4 days here. 2 days of great Lamar Jackson play, but it hasn't been great from the other quarterbacks. And now 2 days of Jackson not being quite as good, and the defense is really dominated in terms of pass rush. So that's a foundation he described. He praised Keon Martin for stacking days. He's certainly done that. He agreed with Ryan Mink, who had asked the question, You can usually guess that those two are going to agree, by the way, because Mink is going to toss up some softballs because he reports, of course, directly for the Ravens. That Adam Randall has really flashed during his time so far, so that's something he was very positive about. He said, this was the answer to my question, that players don't normally practice 4 straight days during the season, which went into the decision to have some vet days off today. And again, my guess is that it's 4th day is a vet day off. Next day is a rest day. They come back in pads, and the vets don't have to worry about it. He said something else interesting too, that when you give the vets some off days, they don't have to manage their own reps. Meaning, if they trust you to give them the off days at the right time, then they can go all out on the reps they're out for. And otherwise, reps, vets are very careful with their bodies. That's how they became vets. To not allow themselves to be worn down by the grind of training camp. Let's see what else we got. He said he won't judge the pass rush, and in this case, it would be positively until the pads come on. So I think he's basically saying he doesn't want to judge the offensive line either. But it's interesting. It's withholding praise is not something coaches normally do. They're usually very happy to praise players and talk about how well things are going and whatnot. But in this case, he's saying, let's see how it is when the pads come on. Lamar Jackson was at the podium next. He said in terms of Tyler Loop and making the kick and the trust in them, I think a question came from Jameson. The question was, he hearkened back to his own rookie year and things that had not gone right for him. And I think he's really talking about the San Diego playoff game, the fumble at the end. Otherwise, everything pretty much went right for Lamar Jackson that year. He led him to a 6-1 record, and the absurd rushing success the team had down the stretch to make the playoffs and beat out the Steelers on that last day of the season. But he was remembering his own troubles as a rookie in terms of what happened to Loop last year. He said the atmosphere at Maryland was like being in college again after 9 years. Talked about Zay Flowers being very hungry. I'll let you listen to what he has, but obviously Zay and him are very close. And then he praised Keon Martin for having a knack of finding the football. And he also praised him for being a South Florida guy, which came up in the conversation with Anthony Weaver yesterday. He wants to be on the field. He's like a gnat, and he does the things a nickel is supposed to do. So good praise from Lamar for Keon. Malachi Starks is the last guy at the podium. He praised Jalen Hawkins as being a guy who brings a lot to the back end now. His goals for year 2 are to fly around, have fun, and attack the football. I asked him a question about, does he think he's going to have more flexibility with Hawkins being the free safety, whereas last year, he had to play free safety because the Ravens needed him to play free safety. And he really had to be a post guy for a lot of that. He didn't get a lot of chances to rush the quarterback. He made some really nice plays coming up to stop short pass plays, for example. And you wonder, how much more could he do if he really had the freedom to move around the football field? But he did talk about, 2026, the personnel they have this year being allow him to a lot of flexibility to move around. Again, you can listen to his response to that. And he talked about building trust with the other defenders as an important step in becoming a great defense. That's all I have for you today. Actually, we'll get through that in quick time here. I appreciate you folks listening. Please use filmstudymailbag@gmail.com for your questions, if you will. Please also like and subscribe, if you would, on to the podcast on your favorite platform. It helps the show a lot if you subscribe in particular. And even if you just give it a like, that'd be great. And as always, if there's one new person you can show this show to, it's always greatly appreciated. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on Film Study.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 U.S.-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.